This is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. Today I have another exciting episode for you, and my life is full of compost or unmade compost with food scraps. So, I filled up that last composter that you guys saw that's actually working very well, and we'll look at that in a little bit. But I had to get another composter, so what I chose to do is check out Craigslist.org. I recommend Craigslist for many different gardening supplies and other things. You could find at really good prices. So I actually found a new composter. Let me show it to you guys. What I got here is actually called the Sunmore 400 composter. And this composter originally sold for like $400. That's an insane price for a composter, and especially one out of plastic. But this is a cool composter because it's what's called a continuous composter. That's a tumbler. So you put stuff in, and as you're doing it, you don't have to wait for one batch to finish. It's a little bit's going to come out at a time when it's ready. So I did a lot of research online trying to look up reviews on this, and a lot of the reviewers said, oh, it didn't work and all this kind of stuff. So, I don't know if I'd spend $400 on it, but I'd definitely spend, it was $100 asking price, and then I offered them $80 and they took it. So got a cool composter that's like 100-gallon capacity for $80. So we're going to go ahead and unload it, and I'm going to go ahead and set it up today and actually give you guys an update on the Joraform composter that I set up just a couple episodes ago. So we got the Sunmore 400 unloaded out of the Jeep and into place, and now I'm going to go ahead and share some of the features with you. Number one, I didn't have to assemble this because I bought it used and it was already assembled, but it looks like to me that there wouldn't be a whole lot of assembly. These are pretty much just solid form pieces, so there's no like screwing or nothing like that. So that's kind of nice. It's going to save you a little bit of time. Now the reason why I got this tumbling composter, besides the fact that it's $80, because that's a really good deal, especially for 100 gallons, is it's easy to rotate. So you can see here it's got a little gear here, and you can just rotate the composter, even if you're maybe not so strong. Many of the other composters, you got to twirl it yourself. And, say on this guy right here, the Joraform composter, you could still just spin it like that and it's really easy. But on these barrel composters, they can't get quite heavy since there's no handles. So these two are like women friendly, whereas the other ones I have may not be, because actually the handles, even on the Lifetime composter on the end, they're really not even good handles for me to grab because there's just some things built into the plastic. So I like that a lot. The other feature about this, let me go ahead and spin this guy around. You just open it up here and hey, check it out. I got some free composter, some yard clippings that came with it. You just have a little thing that slides open to fill it up. So that's really cool. Now, unlike the Joraform that has actually two separate chambers, this has one large chamber, and it actually has one large chamber for stage 1 and then a smaller chamber for stage 2. So how do these stages work? Well, basically you fill out the outer chamber right here. The outer chamber, you're gonna just mix your carbons and your nitrogens, your browns and your greens, and then you're gonna continue to spin everything. And then at the end, all the finished compost is actually gonna go through some holes in the middle here, and then it's gonna come out this end here. So it looks like smaller particles of grass actually coming out here, but this is how this system will work. You put the stuff in here, and this is almost like it's filtering it out, the finished compost itself. So I'm kind of really looking forward to that happening. So next I'm going to go ahead and pull out the stuff that it came with, and then I'm going to start filling it up with some of my food scraps and also some of this extra yard clippings and also my super secret carbon source so I could get excellent results composting. Now I got the Sunmore 400 emptied, and I'm going to go over how it works more specifically and then actually fill it on camera for you guys to share with you guys my compost recipe. But before I do, I actually want to talk about all the different composters I have here. I have a total of 5 composters on site, and that's to make my own compost. Unfortunately, many cities and municipalities don't actually make compost for you like, certain parts of the lucky country. Some places do not. So in this location, they do not. So I'm taking the matter into my own hands and generating my own compost. And I produce a lot of food waste and also yard clippings. So, be sure you guys don't send that off-site to like out with your garbage. Those are very valuable resources. I mean, after all, you guys are buying compost by the brick, by the block. Sometimes it's like $8 for just a few cubic feet. So you could literally be making money by growing your own compost, plus the compost you make at home is going to be far better than any compost money can buy. So I guess let's first go down to the first composter that I got and share with you the pros and cons of each of the current composters that I have. Now we're going to go down my different composters that I've gotten over time. The first composter I got here was this guy right here, is a Keter, just a static bin pile composter. Now this one, you do need to add the right ratios of browns and greens, or carbons and nitrogens, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And you should probably turn it and aerate it. What I found with this is that it just got destroyed in the sun. It popped open in the back here, and while this is rodent, fairly rodent resistant, it's not rodent proof. So I encourage you guys not to buy this kind of composter. It's generally the least expensive kind, but it'd be far better just to make a big pile instead of having a plastic bin like this. So the next one I got, or the next two I got, or coming down, are spinning tumbling composters. And this is actually the Lifetime Tumbling Composter. Actually, I got on clearance at Costco. At Costco, they were selling them for about $100, and I got them on clearance at the end of the season for $50. It's 80 gallons, and it holds a lot, and I like it because, you basically tumble the stuff, and it's up off the ground. So this is actually rodent-proof, and also I found that this actually works significantly faster than the one next door. The problems I've had with this is that, these latches got kind of messed up and bent, and this thing kind of deformed when it got too heavy, and it just couldn't handle the weight of the compost in there. So that's not too good. In addition, this is just basically a single bin system here. You just got one whole bin that you have to just fill up, and then when you're done filling it, you need to let it, basically compost or break down for a while before you can continue to add stuff to it. So for that reason, if you're getting a single bin composter, I recommend you might want to get two, and that's why I got the one next door. And this is the standard barrel composter, and I forget the company that makes this, but they basically sell you a kit that has some plastic wood framing, and then they basically give you the parts to make a standard 55-gallon plastic barrel into a composter. Now this one I don't like so much because it is hard to spin, can't get quite heavy, and I've learned that I don't like the ones, the vertical oriented composters. I like the horizontal ones. So this was good in combination with the other composter, where I could fill up that one, let that work a while, then while I'm filling up this one, by the time I'm done filling this one, that one's already finished. So that's pretty good, although I did find that the Lifetime was definitely better than the standard barrel there. The next composter I got is this guy right here, and this guy I like a lot. Unlike the other ones, it's made out of solid metal, galvanized, powder-coated metal, so it's weather resistant. This one's actually designed in Sweden, and with this composter, because one of the main things is that it's insulated, and check it out. Whoa, you see the steam coming off there? This guy is hot, man. That's crazy. Because this guy is insulated, it stays significantly warmer inside here. And man, this is like sitting in front of the fire on a cold winter's day. I mean, even in the snow, you can be man, I can still see the steam coming off. Even in the snow, hey, close that door. Even in the snow, you can be composting in this composter because it does stay significantly warmer inside. In addition, because this is all metal, and it even has little locks, you can put padlocks on there if you're worried about somebody stealing your compost. My compost is probably one of the most valuable things I have on the site here, because I mean, the quality of the plants you grow all comes down to the quality of the soil you grow in. Compost makes up a large portion of the soil that I grow in. In addition, I like this composter because the handles here, really easy to spin and really efficient to spin there. The Lifetime composter has built-in handles that are kind of hard to grab onto, but this guy, there's a handle. Every other one, I mean, really super simple to spin. In addition, I like it because it's actually quite high off the ground, so that means no bending down. And when it's time, when the compost is finished, I'm going to literally put a wheelbarrow under here, spin this guy around, open this door up, and just dump the stuff right out. So that's going to be very, very convenient. So the last composter I got is the Sunmore 400. And this is a little bit different than any other composters. I like that I get to play with all these cool, garden tools and composters and stuff and make videos for you guys to share with you guys all the different things out there so that you guys can determine which is the best for you. Let's see here. On this guy, how this works is that this is kind of like it's kind of a hybrid between the two bin system because it's a continuous composter. Now, there's no other model on the market like this that I know of. That may be a good or a bad thing. That may be because, you know, like many of the reviews I read, this thing doesn't work so well. But I got it for a cheap price, so I'm going to try it out, and we're going to put my money where my mouth is, or at least see if I can get some compost out of it. So this is a really low composter, so you may have to bend a little bit. One of the things I do like is that it does have a crank on here, so the other ones you have to use some force, and if maybe you're a lady and don't have that much strength or older, you can't literally, you know, spin the compost around. This is really easy because you got a crank. All you got to do is crank it about 8 full times, and it just spins around, so that's geared really nicely. This can also make it easier if your compost is getting heavy because it is, once again, on a gearing system, whereas the other ones you have to spin, you know, manually. Now this one is a continuous composter, so what I want to do is explain that to you. How this works is you fill this up, and there's a tube in the middle here, and at the end of the tube there's a hole in the tube, which, you know, as the compost works its way down, supposedly, you know, when it's done it'll go through that tube and then come through the center here and then come out. So I have a nice little paper model showing you guys how this works, and here's my paper cutout model of how this works here. This is the composter here, this is the door, right? And then how this works is there's a little center tube there in the middle, and you know, as you fill it up, the compost gets full inside here, and as you keep adding, it starts to move this direction, and as you spin it around, it, you know, will spin around and compost. And if we take that center piece in there, which is the center core, at the end of the center piece on, you know, this side, there's a little cutout there. So what happens is, or what's supposed to happen, is that the compost works its way down, the finished compost goes here, and then comes out on this side in the middle. Now that sounds all Jim Dandy and sounds like good, like it'll really work, and I hope it does, because it'll be a really cool solution. But unfortunately, according to the reviews I read, it doesn't work so good. The Sunmark company has been making composting toilets for many years, but you know, this is their you know, only style composter, and due to the price, there's not too many reviews on it. So what we're going to do next is actually fill it up, and no matter what composter you use, you're going to have to definitely, you know, fill it appropriately. And what does that mean? You need to mix in your browns and your greens. If you have too much of one and not enough of the other, and in general, from what I see, most people have far too many greens and not enough browns. The browns are the carbonaceous sources, like the wood chips, like the tree leaves, things like that. And even newspaper could be used as the browns, and the greens are like the yard clippings, the, you know, if you're mowing your grass, your, you know, your plants, you're taking out and composting, and food scraps, generally the greens. So you have to have a nice balance of each. So along with the composter, I got some pre-generated greens. So these guys were what was filling the composter. I emptied it all out so I could see what's going on, and you know, it looks like a lot of grass clippings. Now, one of the tips I want to give you guys for the best results in your composter is to break your stuff down. So, you know, you don't want to be putting whole twigs in there. You want to break this into like little pieces, you know, just little small pieces, so that it's going to break down faster. Especially things like this, you know, just break them up. It'll help the process of composting really good. So the yard clippings and the yard waste that was already in there can be considered green. So we got that already broken up here in one little bucket, and we're just going to go ahead and dump that in. So the easiest thing to remember is for every bucket full of greens, you want to put in some browns. So the easy way to do it is by weight, right? If you have that much greens, you want to put the same weight in browns. So for browns, this time what I'm using is a shredded up brown paper bags and some newsprint. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this in there. Now, I don't recommend that you guys use whole newspapers. You need to grind them up, you know, once again, smallest particle size, so that your compost happens faster. Big chunks don't generally work too well. All right, so we're putting all that in there. Now, I know one of the questions you guys might have is, hey, John, can I put like my junk mail in there and all that as a paper source? Well, you can, but I don't necessarily recommend you put in, you know, things with colored ink or glossy paper. I feel fine with putting in like paper bags and like some newsprint, but you know, I wouldn't really want to put in, you know, colored magazines and whatnot, although you can. It's because those inks may break down in your compost, and then if you're growing in it, that may end up in your food. Another question is, John, can I compost like printer paper with the toner on it? You know, and I personally do in some cases. I'd prefer to use another, you know, carbon source if I have it, because after all, the toner is a high percentage of carbon plus some other plastics, but you know, that doesn't make up a majority of that, plus the paper has been bleached. So that's why I like the brown paper bags. So if you do shop, if you don't take reusable bags, which I recommend, get paper bags and shred them for your compost. The next thing we're going to put in is what I have the most of actually at this point is I have a lot of food scraps. I eat a diet that's rich in fresh fruits and vegetables, and I encourage you guys to too. And because of that, I have lots of food scraps. So we got mango peels here, and actually here's a here's a coyote melon. We're going to crack that up into smaller pieces, and we're just going to go ahead and put this in. You could also, you know, compost your recycled paper towels after you use them in your kitchen. And one of the best things for compost stuff right here, man, juicer pulp. Juicer pulp's also really good for the worms if you have worm bins. So as you can see, I put a lot of the food scraps in here. Now this is a lot of nitrogen source. So to balance that out, one of the secrets I'm using, as you can see that it's in the bottom, are these guys. These guys are called wood pellets, and this is actually horse bedding wood pellets. And these are 100% compressed sawdust, and they're gonna go in there, and all it takes is about 10% of the wood pellets per bucket, because these guys are actually probably one of the richest sources of carbon that's pre-broken down, and all they need to do is get wet, then they blow up into the sawdust, and now you have your carbon source. And that's the one thing that, in my opinion, is missing from many people's compost piles. So you want to try to get a nice even ratio of the browns to the greens so that your compost pile is going to work effectively. So after we got all that stuff added, and I still got a few more rounds of stuff, and I like that this one is 100-gallon capacity, and that's really large. The next thing we got to make sure we add are some very important things. Number one, a lot of people always ask me, John, what about those compost inoculators? You know, you could buy them at the nursery or big box store. It says, you know, get your compost started. You need our compost inoculator. Well, you know what? Save your guys' money. The most effective compost inoculator is freshly generated compost. So put some of your own compost from, you know, previous composting efforts, or just, you know, buy a bag of compost that you're going to grow in and take some of it out and pour it in your composter. This basically inoculates your compost with all the beneficial microbes that are going to start breaking down the food scraps to make some more soil. Another thing you want to add is this stuff right here. This is actually called the azomite, or glacial rock dust in a fine powder. What this stuff's going to do that we're going to add in, and this stuff can get a little bit dusty, this is really going to increase the microbial action in your compost pile, so that it'll happen faster. Plus, this already pre-inoculates the compost you're making to be rich in the trace minerals, so when you grow in it, you're going to even get better results than without it. So I highly encourage you guys to get some rock dust. Now, most nurseries don't sell the rock dust, so if you're having a hard time finding the rock dust in your area, don't worry, I have a video already on it. Where to get compost to delivered anywhere in the 50 United States or territories of the United States, so be sure to check my past videos for that. I guess with that, all we got to do is close this baby up, and we're going to start rotating. Rotating the composter! Let's go ahead and see what we got in here. Ooh, all the rock dust coming out. Alright, it looks like it's pretty well mixed. Let's go ahead and close that guy up. Down in the middle here, though, where it's supposed to come out if it's finished, it looks like it's coming out and it's already, and it's not even finished yet. So, you know, I'm kind of concerned about the design of this composter, if it's going to work well. So I can't necessarily recommend this at this time until I see if it's working. Now, what I can tell you is within 2 days, this guy next door here, the Joraform composter, within just 2 days of me filling it up with a pretty similar recipe that I just filled that one up, it was freaking, oh, look at that steam coming off that, man. This is, whoa, man, this is really warm. You could probably cook a baked potato in there, man. But within 2 days, this was already heated up into temperature. So I'm hoping that in the composter next door, it's going to do the same. But if not, then I know it's that this composter is something real special because of that insulation. It just ensures everything's going to happen faster. And when your composter works faster, that means you're going to have compost sooner to add to your garden. Plus, you could cycle through compost and make your own compost significantly quicker. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and close this guy up to keep the heat in and let this guy compost more. Once again, I did put a high percentage of orange peels and citrus peels in here. So if you want more information on the Joraform composter, be sure to check my past videos. I have a really good video where I show assembling this, setting it up, and putting that recipe in there that you can see is now steaming. And hopefully within a month or so, I'm going to have some compost to put back in my garden. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for future episodes and my experiences with all these different composters here so that you can see and learn how they're working for me. At this time of all these composters, I could definitely say like the Joraform the best. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Once again, my name is John Kohler with GrowingYourGreens.com. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep on growing.